According to DoSomething.org, there's about $864 billion in student debt right now. That's a lot of money. After some research, I have found that students in college have a hard time figuring out how to deal with things financially. And this is because the high school didn't really prepare them with classes. So I think that if we made the financial literacy classes in high school mandatory and required to pass, that this would really help students. In this speech, I want to talk mostly about the things that happen because students are not fully educated on finance. The first thing I will talk about is stress. Then I will talk about the unpreparedness and uncertainty they experience. And lastly, I'll talk about student debt, one of the biggest things and hardest things about college. So, stress. I'm sure you've all felt it before. It's the feeling you get when there's so much going on and you have so much to do in such little time, just things like that, and it quite literally is stressful. College students experience this to the max. They have all these classes they're worrying about and trying to pass. They've got dorms and they've got roommates. On top of all of that, they have all this financial responsibility that they haven't had before and that they haven't really been prepared for. I read an article by Lee Hadaway, who works in the Division of Marketing, and it talks about how there was a research conducted where researchers took social media posts about student debt and tried to figure out people's overall feelings about student debt. And what they found was understandable and kind of crazy. It says, there are, and I quote, high levels of mental health issues, including feeling depressed, stressful feelings, and worrying thoughts. Nobody deserves to have these things. That's kind of terrible. But it's understandable that it happens because people aren't prepared for these crazy financial things, and it causes so much stress on the mind. And this stress causes mental illnesses like depression and anxiety. Some people argue that mental illnesses are already an occurring thing, so what is it if we try to prevent it by making these courses? Well, even if we're not taking away mental illness from people, we're preventing their mental illnesses from getting worse because of the pressure and stress. And people who don't have previously existing mental illnesses will hopefully not get mental illnesses because of finance altogether. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the uncertainty and the unpreparedness of these poor college students. Pretty much, these people are very underprepared. And this is because, once again, the high school courses on financial literacy aren't mandatory. So many people don't take them, and then they have a hard time figuring out finance in the future. A biannual study conducted by a financial health company called Ramsey found that 88% of surveyed adults felt that high school didn't fully prepare them for finance in college, which is kind of crazy to me. High school is supposed to teach you and prepare you for things like college and careers. And if they're not preparing you for finance, how are you going to pay for college? And how are you going to pay for careers? Like, you have to figure out finance, which is why I think that these classes and courses on financial literacy in high school should be mandatory. Some people also argue that they can learn themselves, and many people can, but a lot of people would rather learn and can learn a lot better in a class setting where they are actively being taught. So that statement is kind of irrelevant. Next, let's talk about student debt. One of the biggest things I hear about when I hear about college. Whether it's my brother coming home and saying, "Mom, will you make me a meal? I don't have enough money to buy food." Or whether it's just somebody talking about how they can't make it to the next semester because they're running out of money. Student debt is a problem for a lot of students in college. An article called Financial Stability, there is a part which says that 70% of students who receive bachelor's degrees have education debt by the time they graduate. And that's only the people who get bachelor's degrees. There's more people with debt than that, which is crazy. and so hard for those people. Some people also say that their parents can teach them about finance. And while that is true for many people don't have the situation where they can be taught, which kind of makes that statement untrue. So if we implement my idea and make these high school financial literacy classes mandatory and required to pass, it would really help alleviate a lot of the stress and a lot of the uncertainty and a lot of the debt. So I believe that we should have 3 credits worth, just so that students can really get the idea for finance and feel extra prepared. The Center of Financial Literacy says, personal finance education in high school provides students with the knowledge and skills to manage financial resources effectively for a lifetime of financial well-being. That really just encapsulates everything that is good about these classes and why we should use them to our advantage and why we need them so bad. Some people say that we don't need these courses, and they're there for a reason. It's because we use finance all throughout our life, and if we can start learning about them early on, the earlier on the better. Picture the world if this were to continue happening. There's still going to be so many students in debt, so many people with stress, with mental illness rising more, and a lot more unpreparedness and people being confused and feeling like they're left in the dust. But imagine what the world would look like if we did have these classes and if everybody was required to take them. The debt would alleviate. The unpreparedness will become preparedness. And the stress would go away and people would be able to breeze through college a little bit easier. The Center of Financial Literacy says that a 2016 survey indicated that only 31% of young Americans ages 18 to 26 agree that their high school education did a good job of teaching them healthy financial habits. Once again, high school's job is to prepare you for the future, and that means that 69% of these people felt like high school didn't prepare them for the future. In order to make our future brighter, let's start with those who will be working in it by implementing these courses and making them mandatory throughout high school. Encourage the distribution of textbooks and courses on financial literacy, because if you don't, the students' futures will hold stress and uncertainty and crushing debt. But if you do, then their futures can be whatever they'd like their futures to be.